So today I had this idea, and since it's just the three of us, if you guys have any requests or anything that you want to add,
Mhm.
please like throw a body part out there right now. But I was thinking about doing like hips and low back.
I was gonna say hips, so that's perfect.
Cool, awesome. Um, and I have a visual aid too. So this is my anatomy book, one of my books that I love, and we're familiar with the skeleton. We all have this, for the most part, we all have all these bones.
Mhm.
And our hips are right here. So we've got the femur bone connects into our actual pelvis. And the pelvis, we can just say there's one side and then another side. So we're pretty symmetrical, but injuries or just lifestyle patterns like, um, things that we do with our right leg compared to our left leg. Like in general, when we get out of our vehicle, we mostly drive, right? Not passenger in a car. So when we get out, we always use the same leg to get out. So life is just imbalanced, and so then we experience imbalance in our body. And part of what we do through any mindfulness practice that we do, any mindfulness movement, and is we recognize like, okay, there's an imbalance, and here's things that I can do about it. That's what we're doing. So when we break it down, this is our sacrum, and it's just like the tail end of our spine. And a lot of hip mobility means that these bones, we've got skeletons at my studio. Someday he'll come home. His name is Mr. Bones. But we have our spine that ends with like an arrowhead that points downward. And then we have our two pelvis, and this is kind of what I use. The right side of the pelvis, left side. And then from there, our femurs, our legs go out. So to create healthy hip structure, we want to create movement. We want some degree of movement, not a degree of movement to where it's like SI joint instability. Maybe you've heard of that, or like nerve pain going through the leg, but enough movement so that we're not impinging and creating stress or tension or just stiff hips. So we'll start out with a pre-yoga practice, and Sherry, you're familiar in the type of yoga that I teach. We start out with pre-yoga, and pre-yoga helps to get our body moving, and it helps to create the blood flow before we start stretching. So I'll do an example of what it is that we're doing, and I'll talk a little bit, but maybe you won't be able to hear me from over there, so just the visual aid can be really nice too. So standing with feet a little bit turned out, and wrong one. Bringing hands to the hips. And then it's bending at the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And then inhaling to come up. Exhaling to come down. Inhaling to come up. So it's really a triple flexion. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. And it's called Sumo pose, and it's triple flexion. So bending at the ankles, at the knees, and at the hips. So exhaling, moving downward. Inhaling, moving upward. Exhale. And inhale. Good. Take about 6 or 7 more breaths here. You can allow your back and your chest to come forward a little bit more. So it's creating a little bit more of a bend at the hip. Yeah. Good. And then next time, coming up into standing. So from standing, was it hard to hear me way over there?
No, that was fine.
It was okay.
Okay, all right. I'll just keep the volume of my voice up. So stepping the feet a little bit wider, and then turning the toes towards the front of the mat, and then sending the heel back. So that our knee faces the same direction as our toes, or our toes face the same direction as our knees. And then keeping the hips neutral so that the sacrum is just pointing down towards the ground. And then bending into this front knee and inhaling to straighten. Exhaling to bend. Inhaling to straighten. Yeah. Exhaling and inhaling. And this next time, as the knee comes over the arch of the foot, pausing here. And then bringing hands to touch in front of the heart. Keeping the thighs steady, start to turn your belly button towards the camera. And then reaching arms out long. Or keeping them here. And then straightening this front leg and turning both feet back into neutral. So same thing, second side, turning the other toes towards the front of the mat, sending the other heel back in space. Bending into this knee, and then straightening. Exhale as you bend, and inhale as you straighten. And from our vantage point, the right alignment is as if the knee is tracking over the pinky toe. We can kind of watch the knee tracking over the pinky toe, creating healthy alignment of the ankle and the knee. And the next time the knee comes over the arch, pausing here. Keeping the thighs steady, belly button opens towards the camera, palms come to touch. And then once again, maybe keeping hands here, maybe extending the arms out long. And taking 5 or 6 breaths. And then inhale, straightening this leg, and turning both feet to face towards the camera. When we look at the feet, check to have the edges of the feet parallel to the edge of the mat. So it's almost like the toes are going to be slightly pigeon-toed. And then bringing hands to the hips. You can stay where you are, but I'm going to go sideways. So hands at the hips, and then bending about halfway. So here, just a hip bend, or just, bending at this juncture, not rounding the spine, but keeping the spine neutral. And your body, it might be that you stop up here, you might stop down here. So wherever your hip extension is, or hip flexion. And then from here, keeping the hips neutral, start to round through the back, rounding into the low back, the chest, until your head hangs towards the ground. And then you might choose to let your arms rest towards the ground as well. So in a forward fold, we can allow the spine to decompress, letting the top of the head relax towards the ground. And imagine just each part of the spine releasing. And then feel maybe about 60% of your weight coming into the forefeet and about 40% coming into the heels. And this can sometimes help the spine to release a little bit more, shifting the weight forward. And then when you're ready, rolling up one vertebra at a time, starting from the base of the spine until you come all the way up into standing. And then hopping the feet together. So we'll come to the front of your mat, wherever the front is today. And this part will be challenging to see, but reaching the arms up towards standing as high as you can. And then reaching out and folding forward, letting your spine round. And then bringing hands to the shins, coming into a halfway lift. So a halfway lift is like a tabletop position. Maybe hands come to the knees, hands might come to the shins, or if you'd like more challenge, relaxing the arms and bringing the strength internal. And then exhale, folding forward. Inhale, reaching towards the ceiling. And then bringing hands to touch in front of the heart. So that's like a half sun salutation. And we'll do the half sun salutation one more time with an addition of a lunge. So reaching arms up tall as you inhale. Exhale, folding forward. Inhaling, halfway lift. And then bringing hands to the ground and stepping the left foot back. And a projected lunge, taking elbows onto the knee. So this is our external support. We can use maybe hands on the thigh. We can use elbows on the thigh. Just kind of creating that long line from heel to hip to the head. And then of course there's always the option of making it a little more challenging by bringing palms to touch in front of the heart. And then bringing hands back down to the ground. And stepping the right foot to meet the left. Downward facing dog. Walking both feet between the hands. Halfway lift, inhale. Again, arms can be relaxed or arms can be on the knees or the shins. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, reaching towards the ceiling. And then relaxing the arms. So same thing, second side. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale, folding forward. Halfway lift as you inhale. Yeah, good. And then bringing hands to the ground and stepping the right foot back. Elbows or hands coming onto the left thigh. Projected lunge, one of my least favorite poses. The idea that our heart is kind of facing towards the ground, and the option, of course, bringing the posture a little bit more challenging, strength coming in. And then when you're ready, bringing hands to touch the ground, stepping the left foot back, downward facing dog. And then coming down onto your knees. So on hands and knees, finding a neutral spine. So whatever neutral is extending out through the sit bones, extending out through the crown of the head. And then as you inhale, dropping the belly, lifting the chin. And as you exhale, arching the spine. Inhaling, coming into cow. And exhaling into cat. Inhaling into cow. And exhaling into cat. So as you move, notice your spine. So we know that we have 3 sections to the spine. There's the lumbar spine, the thoracic part of our spine around our rib cage, and then our cervical spine around our neck. And as you move into flexion and extension, maybe notice parts of the spine that feels like there's a lot of movement. Notice parts of the spine where there's maybe less movement, or where pieces of the vertebra move as a whole chunk. And is it possible to create more individualized vertebrae? Good. So the next time you find yourself in cat pose with your spine arched, the middle section of the vertebra around the rib cage, maybe create a little less flexion, so decrease the curve through the vertebra in the center of the spine. And is it possible then to create more flexion in the lower back? So a sense that the belly button is moving towards the spine. Yeah, that's awesome, Jess. And then when you come into to cow pose, lowering the belly. Here we often notice that it's easier to create flexion, or it's easier to create extension, a back bend in the low back, but that our thoracic spine around our rib cage doesn't have as much extension. So lessening the curve in the low back, and by doing that, does it make it a little more possible to create more extension through the thoracic spine? Nice. And then when you're ready, pressing back into child's pose. So dropping hips to heels. And you can bring your forehead maybe onto the ground, maybe onto stacked fists. And take a few more seconds here, breathing into both lungs and fully exhaling from both lungs. And then when you're ready, coming over and rolling onto your spine, coming onto your back into final relaxation. So with arms out next to your side, letting your eyes close. For the next few moments, just allow your body to sink into the ground. Notice how it feels to work with gravity. With each exhalation, letting bones and muscles rest more fully into the earth. And we'll rest here for about a minute. And now, as you're ready, taking a bigger breath into your lungs and fully exhale. And then bending your knees and rolling over onto your right side. And then pressing all the way up into seated. And bringing palms to touch in front of the heart. The light in me honors and reflects the light in you. Namaste.
Thank you, Beck.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome to have you guys in my beta test. So I'm going to end the recording first.